Now I'm going to go through ports on a audio interface, okay? This right here is the Complete Audio 6 Mark II. This is one of the two audio interfaces I use most frequently. I have two other ones that I don't use nearly as often, but I have them around just in case I need them. They're kind of older and not as high quality, and they also aren't as slick looking like this one. This is an interface made by the company Native Instruments. It also makes a lot of the sound software that I use, and this thing back here called Machine. We'll go over that later. I'll run you real quick through the inputs and the outputs and explain how everything works on this. So basically, to use a car term or a highway term, this is your on-ramp into your computer, okay? This is one port. This is a USB port. It's a USB, I believe it's a USB 2 port. So speed-wise, it's not that fast, but it gets enough information across to carry audio and digital MIDI signals. So basically all you have to do is you plug this into your USB port, you got this, you plug this into your computer, you're good to go. If you're on a Mac, pretty much work right out of the box. If you're on a PC, you have to install a little piece of software called a driver. So this actually is what's called a bus-powered interface. So that means all of its power is derived from the computer that it's plugged into. It's not going to need a separate power adapter or anything else like that. I'm gonna unplug this real quick just for the sake of demonstration and show you guys all the ports in this interface. This is the front panel of the Complete Audio 6 Mark II from Native Instruments. So what you've got here right across the front, you've got two XLR and 1/4 inch combo ports. Combo meaning either you can plug a 1/4 inch or a microphone into this port. Not at the same time, but either or. So this is a XLR cable, also known as a microphone cable. You plug it in like that, and there you're good to go. You can, at the same time, say you've got a guitar cable. This is actually a headphone cable, but let's pretend it's a guitar cable because it's the same size as a guitar cable. This is 1/4 inch, so that would plug right into the middle of that port. Now, of course, you can plug this one into this one, and you can plug this one into this one. It really doesn't matter. It's just a versatile kind of port that you can use. So let's go into some ins and outs of the interface here. Let's say I plug in a microphone to this port. I'm just going to show you how this would work if you're hooking up your devices and putting it into the computer, okay? So you have a microphone hooked in. The only thing that you need to do is set here. So this is line and instruments. A little confusing because line is actually for a microphone. This is switchable on this interface specifically. Not all devices actually have this. Sometimes it's auto switchable. So this is set to line. So line level meaning like audio coming from an unamplified device, a microphone, for instance. This knob right here, this is also called the gain. This knob right here. And so you just set this and you're good to go, and you should be able to hear it on your computer once you plug it in. Same goes for the same port over here. There's another XLR 1/4 inch combo port. And then, yeah, if you were to plug in a guitar or bass to this, it's going to have a different impedance, meaning a level of electricity. I'm not a tinkerer as far as electronics are concerned, so I'm not going to be able to go into the nuts and bolts of this, but you can look it up if you're really interested. So if you switched it over to instrument, it would accurately be able to take an input from a guitar or bass and have it correctly read it into the computer at the right level. When I say a guitar or bass, I mean an unmic'd guitar or bass. Like you could plug a bass or a guitar directly from the guitar or the bass into the interface. Then you would just turn it up and you would see the level as you played in your DAW or other software. The last thing concerning these ports is this button right here, which says 48V or 48 volts. This is also called phantom power. This is specific for if you have a condenser microphone. A condenser microphone is different from a dynamic microphone, which I'll go over in another section. Essentially, if you have a condenser microphone, you have to push this in. There's a little indicator on top that says that when it's lit, then it's going. And that's all you need to do to hook up a condenser mic. That is active for both ports. It supplies phantom power to both ports. It's called phantom power in the old terms of audio production. The rest of this interface, the front of this interface, is basically for the monitoring. So these are headphone outputs here, headphone 1, headphone 2, with a level knob to see how loud the headphones will go. This knob right here says input and host. The reason that it says that is because it's whether you want to monitor through these headphones, whether you want to hear the input or the host. These inputs versus what's coming out of the computer. So if you have it turned all the way to host, everything that comes out of this is going to have what's coming out of your computer. If you have it on input, you're not going to hear anything coming out of the computer. You're only going to hear what's coming out of these inputs. It's helpful if you just want to have the raw version of what's coming into the interface. Here is just the switch between, it says 1, 2, 3, 4. So Inputs 1, 2 will be on this side. Inputs 3, 4 are on this side. So where's input 3 and 4? They're on the back. So that leads me to these 1/4 inch ports here. Input 3, input 4. So that's what this controls here, what the signal's coming from. Is it coming from these 2 ports or is it coming from these 2 ports? Like I said, this whole section is just for these headphones. On the back, we have some familiar ports. We have the USB port. All right, that's USB, that goes to your computer. These are your inputs that I just talked about. Now, you've got 4 outputs, 4 separate outputs here that are analog. So these 2 are actually digital. You don't have to worry about them for the most part. If you know what these are, then you're probably not taking these course. So we've got 4 ports here. This is output 1, output 2. Generally, that's left and right if you have speakers. So this is speaker left, speaker right. And then you've got these 2 other ports, and these come out in a different format. This is actually, they come out at what's called normalized level, which means it's just a flat amplification. It doesn't depend at all on this volume knob on the top. The volume knob on the top actually will control only these 2 outputs. These 2 outputs are going to be the same volume no matter what. The only other thing on this device are the MIDI in and MIDI out ports. I talked a little bit about MIDI earlier on. I'm going to go into a whole in-depth discussion of what MIDI is. All you need to know is these ports are available for older devices and devices that use this very old 1980s era port, which is actually a surprising number of synthesizers that people still use if they use vintage gear. That's pretty much it for the Komplete Audio 6 Mark II. That's all the ins and outs of this device. Up here, you've got some metering situation going on here. Input 1, 2, 3, and 4. That'll be like how loud it is coming into the device by each meter. And then you've got output 1 and 2, what your output looks like coming out of your computer before you use this knob. Also, you've got some indicator lights here about when MIDI's coming in and out, and then the phantom power, which I mentioned briefly, and then also your USB connectivity, whether it's successfully connected to your computer. This is one of the most standard audio interfaces. It's a little more expensive than, say, like a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, which is like a 2-input device. There's also smaller, simpler versions of this that don't have MIDI ports and some of the other features, and maybe only a single headphone output. I'm going to show you briefly this interface also. This is the Focusrite 18i8. This is a device that I use a lot of times for live stuff. On the front, you got very usual suspects. You've got the combo ports like I was talking about. This is the gain level. Here you got the 48V, the phantom power for condenser microphones. Click those on and off. You also have double headphone output, which are routable within the software that comes with this device. That's a little bit different from the Komplete Audio interface, but it's also twice as expensive. So you get what you pay for, essentially. So on the back here, what we've got is on-off switch, because like I said before, this is actually powered. So you actually need a power source because it's got so much good junk in it. It needs an external power source in addition to its USB-C output. I don't believe you can power this device only with USB-C. I believe you always need the power adapter. And then this digital ins and outs called SPDIF. It's an old format by Sony, I believe. And then you got an optical input. I believe the optical input on this specific interface is to add preamps. So these 4 combo jacks, each has a preamp for each input. This would provide you the ability to add another strip of these inputs and then plug them into the back of this thing and you're good to go. Then of course we have our MIDI in and out. Like I showed you before on the Komplete Audio, the MIDI in and out is for mostly older synthesizers and electronics. And then we've got our line inputs. Instead of having 6 inputs, there's 8 on this guy. So there's 4 on the front, 4 on the back. These are line level inputs, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you've got, like the other device, 2 line outputs. I'm not sure if it's the same. I don't know if these are normalized outputs. I believe they are. So there's usually 2 that are controlled by the master volume knob on the front here. And then there's 2 that are not controlled by that, and they're at normalized line level, so they can go into an effects processor or something else like that. So this is a really nice device, really heavy duty, metal casing. Yeah, I think this ran around $450 or something like that. So not quite double the price of the other one, but it's a really nice interface. They've got even nicer ones, and you know, the sky's the limit with a lot of this gear. You can spend thousands of dollars on inputs, but I think there's a form of diminishing returns at a certain point for the home user, the person that is operating out of a small project studio like you will be.